Dear students, today let me start the new unit, that is unit 3. The topic is, or the unit is electromagnetism. In that, let me consider the topic scalar and vector fields. You know what are scalars and vectors? A scalar quantity is one which is having only magnitude. Vector quantity is one having both magnitude and direction. Now today in this unit, or let us study about scalar and vector fields. What are scalar and vector fields? This field concept was introduced by Michael Faraday into this physical theory. Here, if you consider a point in space, that point say P, it can be specified by the coordinates x, y and z. Suppose there is a point, say P. In three-dimensional Cartesian coordinate system, that point can be represented by the coordinates x, y, z. Suppose a scalar function. So we denote the scalar function by symbol phi. Or a vector function, say f. Suppose a scalar function phi or a vector function f is defined, or if it is associated with this point, then these functions can be defined at that point. If phi or f are associated with this point in a region of space, then at this point we can define the function phi as well as you can define the function f. These functions are called as the scalar field functions and vector field function. These two are scalar field function and vector field function respectively. The values of these functions depend on the coordinates x, y and z. These are the scalar functions and vector function in a field. The space where a scalar function, field function is defined. That means if every point in the region, suppose consider a region in space. Consider a region in space. If every point in that region of space which corresponds to a scalar, then we say that a scalar field exists in that region. If every point in that region of space corresponds to a scalar, then we say a scalar field exists in that region. Example we can give is the temperature distribution in a medium. Distribution of temperature in the medium. Temperature, a scalar quantity. So that region is a scalar field region wherein a scalar function can be defined. Similarly, distribution of electrostatic potential or distribution of magnetic potential. Potential is also a scalar quantity. These are the examples for a scalar field. A scalar field usually denoted by or defined by the function phi x, y, z. And we denote this scalar field function by the level surfaces. See, these are nothing but the level surfaces. This is the representation of the scalar field function, level surfaces. Suppose the scalar field is the distribution of temperature in the medium. In that case, the level surfaces having different functions, say phi 1, phi 2, etc. These level surfaces are called the isothermals. The scalar field is the temperature distribution, so these two are called the isothermals. What's the meaning? The temperature on a level surface remains constant. Isothermal, temperature remains constant. So phi 1 is same at all the points on the surface. Similarly, phi 2, same at all the points on the surface. These are the isothermals, phi 1 and phi 2. And the vector field f. Suppose if every point in a region of space corresponds to a vector field or a vector function. Suppose at every point in a region of space, a vector function is defined. Then that region is called the vector field, where we define this vector function. And the example for this is distribution of velocity in fluids. When a fluid is in motion, the distribution of velocity is the example for the vector field. Similarly, the electric intensity, electrostatic intensity, electric field intensity, magnetic field intensity, gravitational field intensity, all these are examples for the vector fields denoted by the function f of x, y, z. And the vector field always represented by a line. Usually we call it as, in case of electric field, magnetic field, these lines are called the lines of force. The vector field is represented by a line vector. The magnitude is given by the length of the line. Length of the line gives the magnitude. And the direction is always along the tangent to that field line. Straight line means this one itself is the direction. In case of curved lines of force, the tangent drawn to the curve gives the direction of that vector field. This is about scalar and vector fields and their representation. Now, let us consider the concept gradient of a scalar function. Gradient of the scalar function. So we denote scalar function as phi, which is the function of x, y, z, the space coordinates x, y, z. And we represent the scalar function by the level surfaces. Consider a scalar field defined wherein a scalar function phi is defined. So here phi 1, phi 2 are the two level surfaces. What is gradient of a scalar function? The gradient of a scalar function which gives the maximum rate of change of this scalar function. The maximum rate of change of this scalar function when we move from one point to other point is nothing but the gradient. Now what is the maximum change or rate of change of this function? That gives us the gradient. To find out that, here we have two level surfaces, phi 1, phi 2. Let them be very close to each other. See, for convenience, we have taken the distance large. Let them be very close to each other. Here, A is a point on the first level surface. Consider another point B at a distance R from this, or say the point A is at a distance R from O. Consider another point B at a distance R plus dr from O. See here, the point A is very close here. Suppose it's somewhere here. For convenience, it is taken here. Let the point be very close, so that A and B are then very close to each other. Suppose when A is here, this will be dr. Let dr be the distance between the points A and B. Dr, the distance between the points A and B. When we move from the point A to B, so actually point A is very close. When we move from the point A to B, the change in phi, it is given by d phi. Phi 2 minus phi 1, it is d phi. Now, the rate of change of phi in the direction of AB. When we move from the point A to B, rate of change of phi in the direction AB, it is given by d phi by dr. Now, at this point A, draw the normal to the surface. See, this is the normal drawn. N cap is a unit normal or unit vector along the normal, and dn, the distance AC. The separation between the points A and B in the direction of normal, it is dn. AC is dn. And from this diagram, we can find the relation between dn and dr. What is dn? The relation dn can be taken as dr cos theta. If you define, see, this is the normal. So if you define cos theta is dn by dr, so that dn is dr cos theta. Cos theta. Dn is dr cos theta. Now, the rate of change of phi in the direction of AB is d phi by dr. So from this equation, you can write dr as dn by cos theta. Substitute dr as dn by cos theta. Then you get d phi by dn into cos theta by substituting dr. So d phi by dr is nothing but d phi by dn into cos theta. What's the maximum possible value for cos theta? It is 1. So that d phi by dr becomes maximum when cos theta equal to 1. Or d phi by dr maximum is d phi by dn along the normal, that is d phi by dn into n cap. This maximum rate of change of this function, scalar function, in the direction of the unit normal. It is called as gradient of the function phi. Maximum rate of change of the scalar function phi in the direction of the unit normal called gradient of phi. And gradient of a function, phi is a scalar here, so gradient of the scalar denoted as del phi. This del is an operator, denoted as del. This del operator, it's a vector operator given by this. Del, the operator given by this. I cap delta by delta x plus j cap delta by delta y plus k cap delta by delta z. When this operator is operated on the function phi, so del phi is given by this. And the gradient of a scalar function here. Phi is a scalar, so gradient of a scalar function is always a vector. Here we have I, j, k, so this term is a vector. So gradient of a scalar is always a vector. What is del? It's the gradient operator. When this del is operated on the function, we call gradient of phi. This operation on the scalar function gives the maximum rate of change of scalar function in the direction of the unit normal when we move from one point to other point of the two level surfaces. Now see here, gradient of a scalar function is always a vector. To show this, let us consider an example. The example is, let the scalar field be the electrostatic potential field. Let the scalar field be electrostatic potential field. Electric potential, it is a scalar quantity. Consider that electric potential field. Here, let us consider two level surfaces. Consider two level surfaces. Now here, a charge q is placed, so that the intensity of the electric field due to charge is along this direction. E is the intensity of that electric field. Now, the electric potential due to this charge represented by these two level surfaces, phi 1 and phi 2. Phi 1, phi 2, they represent the electric potential. Usually potential, we denote it by the symbol V. But here, the symbol phi is taken. So phi 1, phi 2 represent the electric potential at these two points, at these two regions, represented by these two level surfaces, so that phi 2 minus phi 1 is d phi. Change in potential is d phi. So here, this d phi, phi 2 minus phi 1, d phi is a single valued one and it has got partial derivatives. So we represent d phi as delta phi with, in terms of its partial derivatives, delta phi by delta x dx plus delta phi by delta y dy plus delta phi by delta z dz. This is d phi. And then now, what is the relation between electric intensity and potential? The usual symbol what we use is E equal to minus dV by dx. This is the relation between electric intensity and the potential gradient. This is called as potential gradient. Rate of change of potential with the distance. So potential gradient. So E is always minus dV by dx. Or from this, you can write dV as minus E dx. So if you apply this one here in this case, what is dV? Nothing but d phi. And minus E dx. This separation is taken as dr. Separation between these two is taken as dr. This is at a distance r. The second one at a distance r plus dr. Separation is taken as dr. So that dV equal to minus E dx can be written as d phi equal to minus E dr. It is nothing but the dot product of E vector dot dr vector. Or this is nothing but dot product of E vector dot dx vector, nothing but E dx cos theta. Theta is 0 means cos 0 is 1. So that d phi given by minus E vector dot dr vector. But what is d phi here? Delta phi by delta x dx plus delta phi by delta y dy plus delta phi by delta z dz. This one can also be written as the dot product of these two terms. This is nothing but dot product of this. What is the first term? It is del phi. What is the second term? dr vector. See, you know that any vector, the position vector r represented in terms of its components as I cap x plus j cap y plus k cap z. In a similar manner, you can write dr vector as dx I cap plus or I cap dx plus j cap dy plus k cap dz. So that this expression is nothing but dot product of this. So that d phi, also we get it as d phi equal to, what is this term? Del phi. So already defined. This is nothing but del phi. Dot, what is this? dr vector. So find the dot product here. You get this one. How to find the dot product? Only I dot I, j dot j, k dot k. They only remain. The other terms, I dot j, I dot k, or j dot I, j dot k, all those things, they vanish. I dot I, cos 0 is 1. I dot I equal to j dot j equal to k dot k equal to, yeah, they have cos theta 0, so cos 0 1 in that case. You have studied these things in your first BSc class. So, this one is nothing but del phi. This is nothing but dr vector. So that d phi is del phi dot dr vector. Now compare these two. From equations 1 and 2, left hand sides d phi. So here compare this. You get del phi equal to, see, E is equal to minus del phi, or minus E vector is del phi, or E is minus del phi. What it says? Electric intensity equal to the gradient of the potential, electric potential. Electric intensity is negative of gradient of the electric potential. So the gradient of a scalar function is always a vector. This is the proof. Now, integration in vector fields. This is nothing but vector integration. Integration in vector fields. Here we consider the vector field. Vector field usually denoted by symbol F. It's not force in particular. In general, any vector field is represented by the letter F. Now, vector integration, there are three types: line integral, surface integral, and volume integral. What is line integral? Line integral is nothing but the integral of the function along a curve. The integral of the function along the curve is called the line integral. See here we have a curve between the points P1 and P2. Let F be the vector field exists there in the region of space where at the point P. Now, at this point P, consider a small element of length dr. Then, this is the direction of the field F acting at this point. Then, the line integral here, it is defined as, see, one more thing, consider small element of length dr. Then, we can divide this whole curve P1 to P2 into so many such dr. So, then, the dot product of F and dr, F dot dr, then the total of this dot product along the curve P1, along the curve from P1 to P2, nothing but the integral. So, line integral defined as integration of F dot dr between the points P1 and P2. This is nothing but the line integral. So, this line integral in terms of its components, in terms of the components of F and R, it can be written like this: F vector dot dr vector. What is F vector? I cap Fx plus j cap Fy. We can write F vector as I cap Fx plus j cap Fy plus k cap Fz in terms of the components. Similarly, dr vector can be written as I cap dx plus j cap dy plus k cap dz. Find the dot product. Only I dot I, j dot j, k dot j, they remain. Other terms constant, they vanish. So that you get Fx dx plus Fy dy plus Fz dz. This is a representation of line integral in terms of the components. This is about the line integral. And if that vector is force, the vector field is the force field. In that case, line integral gives the work done in moving a particle from the point P1 to P2 along that curve. In case of if the vector field is force, in case of force field, the line integral is nothing but the total work done by the force. The line integral is always independent of the path. The line integral depends only on the initial and final positions of the particle. It's independent of the path taken by the particle, path along which the particle has been moved from one point to other point. So suppose there is a vector field F. Let that vector field F be equal to the gradient of a scalar. Say example is electric intensity and electric potential. Electric intensity can be represented as the gradient of the electric potential. So similarly here, suppose in general, suppose we have a vector field which is represented as a gradient of a scalar function, gradient of a scalar field. So that F vector equal to del phi. Phi, as I told, single valued scalar function. It has got continuous partial derivatives. If F is force, then the line integral gives the work done in case of the vector which is force. Now, what's the line integral here? Line integral is integration of F dot dr between P1 and P2, say. Suppose the particle moves from point P1 to point P2 in that vector field. This is the line integral. But F is the gradient of the scalar. So this can be written as integration of del phi dot dr vector. What is del phi? I cap delta phi by delta x plus j cap delta phi by delta y plus k cap delta phi by delta z. What is dr? This one. Find the dot product, you get this. What is this actually? The representation of d phi in terms of partial derivatives. So this is nothing but d phi. Integrate d phi, you get phi between the limits P1 and P2. So the line integral equal to the scalar function at P2 minus the scalar function at P1. So the line integral of that vector field between the 2 points is given by the scalar function at the point P2 minus scalar function at the point P1. This says that line integral depends only on the points, not along the path. Independent of the path, depends on the initial and final points to which the particle has been taken along that curved path. So line integral is independent of the path. This is the proof. Suppose the vector field is a force field. Suppose the vector field is a force field. And let the force be a conservative force. What do you mean by conservative force? Conservative force is one whose conservative force is nothing but the force whose work done is independent of the path followed by the particle. The work done by the force is independent of the path taken by the particle. It depends only on the initial and final positions of the particle. Such a force is called a conservative force. So, if the work done by the force is independent of the path, means we can represent that force as the gradient of a scalar function. So already in the previous discussion, we had seen that when a force is represented as a gradient of a scalar function, the line integral is independent of the path. Here we have the force, conservative force, work done by it is independent of the path. So you can represent conservative force as the gradient of a scalar function, F equal to del phi. Suppose a particle is taken along a closed path from the point A to point B. It taken along the path P1B. From B to A, it is taken along the path BP to A. Say. Suppose the force takes the particle along this closed path. Now, the work done by the force, by this conservative force along this closed path is always equal to 0. The work done by this conservative force is 0 means the line integral of this force, conservative force along the closed path equal to 0. What is the line integral? Integration of F dot dr along the closed loop path. It's a closed loop represented like this line integral. And you can write this one as the line integral. You can split this into two. The line integral of the force field along the path AP1B, then line integral along the path BP to A. So that if you split this one into two, you can write this as this, sum of these two. The line integral of F along the path AP1B plus line integral of F along the path BP to A. This term, it can also be written as minus, say moving from B to A along this path, nothing but moving from A to B in the opposite direction. So minus AP to B F dot dr. Both these are same, therefore it is 0. Thus, the line integral of the force, conservative force along the closed path or a closed curve is always 0. This is the proof. Now, second type of integral is surface integral. This is the integration of the vector field over a closed surface. Surface integral, integration of the vector field along a closed path. Then the surface integral, it can be represented as the double line integral. Surface integral is double line integral, or it is represented like this. Integration of f vector dot ds vector over the closed surface S. See here, we have a closed surface S in a vector field F. Consider a vector field F. In that region, consider a closed surface S. There, consider one point P. Let ds be the small area surrounding the point P. And this is the normal drawn to the surface, denoted as ds vector. This is the normal drawn to the surface. And this is the direction of the vector field in that region. This normal ds makes angle theta with the field direction. So that the surface integral about the point P is defined as integration of f vector dot ds vector about this surface and about the whole surface. See here, you can divide the whole surface into so many such small areas, small surfaces of each having area ds. Divide this whole surface into so small surface of area ds, so that the total dot product of f and ds, or the entire surface, given by the surface integral of f dot ds. And the surface integral always gives the total flux of that field, vector field, through the entire surface. Surface integral always gives the total flux of that field through that entire surface. Say for example, if you consider the electric field, say E, there if you consider closed surface, then surface integral of that electric field, or surface integral at any point in that electric field about the closed surface S, which gives the total electric flux coming out from the surface. The total electric flux coming out from the surface. So thus, the surface integral always gives the total flux of that vector field. It's about surface integral. It's also represented as line integral of f vector dot ds vector. Double line integral. In Cartesian coordinates, in terms of the components, this is the representation of the surface integral over the entire surface S. You know how to write this. This is I cap fx plus j cap fy plus k cap fz dot ds vector is I cap dx or dsx. I cap dsx plus j cap dsy plus k cap dsz. Second dot product. So only I, j, k. I dot j dot j, k dot k. They remain. So that you get this. Say the example given is S is the fixed surface in a fluid. Suppose we have a fluid in motion with velocity say v. Distribution of velocity is nothing but the vector field. Then surface integral v vector dot ds vector. This represents the rate of flow of the fluid through that surface S, or the flux of liquid coming out of that surface. Flux of liquid, rate of flow of liquid or fluid in general. Third integral is the volume integral. This volume integral is again taken over a closed surface. This volume integral nothing but the total volume taken over the entire volume. Suppose we have a closed surface S enclosing volume V in a vector field. A closed surface S enclosing a volume V in a vector field, say F. Then the volume integral is given by this. Integration of F dot V. Consider small surface enclosing, consider point P. Around that, consider small surface of area ds enclosing the volume dV. Then The volume integral is given by integration of f vector dv over the entire volume v. Volume integral over the entire surface enclosing volume v is given by this. And in the terms of coordinates, it is written as this: dv, the volume of this surface ds enclosing volume dv equal to dx dy dz in 3 dimensions, dx dy dz. This about the volume integral, and these are the 3 types of vector integrals. With this, I stop here. Let us continue the next topic in the next class.